Thank you to the ARF for inviting Google to be a part of this conference, and thank you to you for joining us during lunch. This conference has been great. It's great to see so many people who share an interest with us in cross-media research. We think solving the challenges of cross-media measurement and leveraging the possibilities that this data represents is critical to the future of our industry, to media planning, and to the continued investment in advertising by marketers. In the next 20 to 25 minutes, we plan to cover the following topics. First, we want to provide some context. Just context to the challenges that we see coming. We call this part of the presentation the acceleration of everything. It dimensionalizes the scope and size of the changes we see coming from a digital perspective and from an offline perspective. We'll talk about the challenges of an increasingly complex online world. We'll also talk about the changes occurring in offline media that are equally profound. After discussing the acceleration and changes, we'll suggest some ideas for how to navigate these. We'll lay out a set of marketplace and service principles that we think provide useful guideposts for moving forward. We'll then briefly review the progress the industry has already made. There's been a lot of great work, but we don't have time to cover it all. We'll then focus on what Google is trying to do to help move forward the cross-media agenda. Finally, we'll outline 3 specific initiatives that Google is undertaking as examples of the kind of partnerships that we are pursuing. So with that, let me turn to the acceleration of everything. I think we can all agree that there are some fairly significant challenges facing media research today. First, there's the evolution of the media we are measuring. There's the changing consumer behavior, the impact of technology, new techniques for conducting research, passive versus active measurement, metrics, standards, and definitions, and getting to ones that we can all agree on. Sample sizes, the quality of that research. These are all challenges to be sure, but Google's view is that while these are challenges today, the future is going to become even more challenging. Why is that? It's because of the acceleration of everything. Let's put the digital revolution in context. Let me start by asking you to think way back, not to the 60s, but to just 3 years ago, to 2008. Back then, how many of you tweeted? To put it in context, in 2008, there were 1.25 million Twitter visitors. Last year, in 2010, there were 19.1 million. How many of you were on Facebook? Facebook seems really common, everybody's doing it. In 2008, there were 300 million on social networks worldwide. Last year, there were 800 million. How many of you watch YouTube? To put it in context, in 2008, there were 13 hours of video uploaded per minute. Last year, there were 24 hours. How many of you searched on an Android phone or some other smartphone? To put it in context, in 2008, Android had just launched. In 2010, it was shipping 200,000 units per day. We're in a digital revolution, a constant conversation. In the first phase, we learned how to read. Google, Yahoo, and others taught us how to see and absorb information online. It was brand new, but still a mostly one-way, passive form of interacting. The second phase kicked in soon after. We learned how to spend. Sites like Amazon, Expedia, and eBay made us comfortable handing over our credit cards and buying online. The third phase came more recently. We learned how to talk, to genuinely communicate. Skype, Facebook, YouTube, and others taught us that two-way communication is possible online and fun. Other eras had Columbus, Galileo, Everest, the moon. We have the digital revolution, the acceleration of everything, and we're only at the beginning of it. Right now, the number of internet users is exploding. In 2010, there were 1.9 billion people online on PCs. Mobile subscribers are exploding. There are 5 billion mobile subscribers in 2010. Digital information is exploding. There were 800 exabytes in 2010. To help keep that in context, 5 exabytes is the amount we created between the dawn of civilization and 2003. We're now creating that every 2 days. So what will 2020 look like? By 2020, there will be 5 billion internet users connecting at speeds of 1 gigabyte per second, 500 times faster than current US speeds. In 2020, there will be 10 billion mobile subscribers. Most people have more than one phone, tablet, or mobile device. In 2020, the amount of digital information will surge to 53 zettabytes. That's an increase of 50 times. and mobile traffic will grow 80 times with video dominating it. The digital marketplace will explode as well. In 2010, there was a $500 billion global advertising market. In 2020, it's estimated there will be a $1 trillion global market. That's a potential $500 billion, which will transform digital media's relationship with advertisers and consumers. The changes are massive and multiplicative, and things are only going to speed up. But the biggest driver of it all is the consumer. Science fiction is already fact with computers in our pockets, voice commands, real-time search. The consumer has been the first to figure this out. Their behavior is evolving at breakneck speed and scale. eBay. Last year, it had $6 billion of merchandise purchased via mobile. Farmville, 30 million people using it every day, and 800,000 virtual tractors sold daily at $3.33 each. 800,000 virtual tractors. 180 Kindle books sold for every 100 hardcovers at Amazon. Lady Gaga, a record 1.5 billion views on YouTube and 36 million fans on Facebook. She beats out Obama, who only has a mere 21 million fans. iPhone App Store, over 5 billion apps downloaded, and 20% of donations for Haiti in the first week were made via text message to the Red Cross. The potentials of this new era is huge, and it's happening fast, with wide-ranging implications for cross-media measurement. Digital media isn't the only thing that's changing. I don't have to tell this audience how profoundly TV, radio, print, out-of-home, place-based media are changing as well. There are new devices, new sources of content, and ways to get it. Consumers are also having an increasing number of options for where to consume media. New technologies are also integrating with media to create whole new consumer experiences. PCs and TVs, smartphones and TV, GPS-equipped devices and out-of-home, location and mobile. There's a transformation taking place in terms of interactivity and addressability. We hope you now see the same challenges that we at Google see. There is a massive shift taking place. The question becomes, how do we make sense of this complexity? How do we help advertisers understand and exploit this by developing strategies that will continue to engage consumers? In our mind, the need to meet the challenges of cross-media research is critical. The world of media and advertising is becoming increasingly connected, and we've got to figure out a way to create research that follows the consumer to this connected media world. If the numbers are right, and the growth in media over the next 10 years is going to be 500 billion, then if we can figure out a way to increase the effectiveness of media plans by just 5%, that will generate a $25 billion saving to advertisers. And we think this is just the beginning of the economies of scale. So how do we keep up with the pace of change, the acceleration of everything, the ubiquity of data, the interactivity of the future media experience? Although the challenges in front of us are pretty big, it's important to acknowledge that the industry has made a lot of great progress to date. We've categorized this progress in 3 areas: audience insight services, ad effectiveness, and media efficiency. In terms of audience insight, we note the long-established syndicated planning services for local and national advertising. We've seen the development of single-source applications off of TV, radio, and internet. For ad effectiveness, we include media mix modeling, econometrics, cross-media opportunity C, and fusion-based services. Finally, with respect to media efficiency, we note the progress of services that integrate media behavior with purchase data, as well as contextual planning. On the industry organization front, there's also been a lot of movement as well. Through the work of the ANA, the IAB, the 4As, the MRC, the Publishers Association, SIM, and others, we've seen and are seeing significant efforts around harmonizing metrics, setting measurement standards, funding new research, and coalescing effort and investment on new services. However, while we've done a lot, there's still a lot more to do, especially if you believe, as we do, that our business is going to become much more complex over the next 10 years. If you believe the trends we just talked about and the level of complexity in digital and offline media that is coming, then I think you'll agree that the cross-media research challenge is too big for any one organization to manage on its own. We'll get back to this topic of larger than any one organization. I'm going to hand it over to Owen to discuss what Google is doing to help.
Okay, we hope that we have convinced you that things are not only complicated, but they're going to get much more complicated in the years to come. And one of the most important implications of believing in that foundational principle is the need that we need to move. We need to move quickly. So for the balance of the presentation, we're going to talk about what Google is trying to do to address these challenges that Elissa just described. So how are we trying to help? Well, we've categorized the areas of assistance in 4 ways. First, we have identified a set of principles that we believe are important in the operation of an effective cross-media research marketplace. And we're going to describe what the attributes of that effective marketplace are in just a second. We've identified the need for partnership. Given the size and complexity of the challenges that Elissa just talked about, no one organization can do it on their own. We need to work together. And so we have some ideas for how to make that happen. We are investing in cross-media research and using the resources of Google to experiment, innovate, and initiate. And we'll talk about some very specific things we're doing in a second. And finally, we believe very strongly in the principle of experimentation, and we'll go into some detail about what that means at Google. So let's talk about principles, and we'll talk about marketplace principles first. We believe that the way to navigate the complexity ahead is to work with a set of guideposts for how the future of cross-media research should look. We can't let it happen on its own. We need to shape the outcome. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Google uses the term future state. These are aspirational principles for what an ideal future cross-media research market and set of services should look like. So what do we mean by that? The ideal cross-media research market of the future is characterized by these attributes. We think that it's very important for the industry to be healthy, to be vigorous, meaning lots of players, lots of different things going on. You need to have a lot of activity. There has to be a sense of restlessness and a commitment to constant change. We believe very strongly in competition. Competition is a good thing. Competition leads to innovation. Competition leads to vibrancy. But we also recognize that there's a need for collaboration, not just participating in industry groups, but to join together allegiances, strategic partnerships, even between competitors at times. We think there's a great need for that to happen into the future. In fact, to put it bluntly, organizations need to put their self-interest behind and work together in the interests of the industry and our customers, advertisers. We believe that the most important attribute of cross-media research in the future is one characterized by innovation, experimentation, and risk-taking. There needs to be constant effort around improving services and building new ones. And it's extremely important that when a company tries something, we don't punish them for getting it wrong. We need to fail, and we need to pick ourselves up, and we need to move forward. You learn through failure. Google is a strong believer in working harder to improve the quality of research, from the underlying research design and sampling processes to the instruments that we use to measure behavior, to the analytics that drive insight from the data. All of these things need to be continually improved. We think the cross-media research industry of the future will be best served by an open marketplace with direct and easy access to ubiquitous data. This is a foundational principle. We'll come back to this. We expect to see different business models and ownership models evolve. Not all services, in our view of the future, need to be vendor-owned. Some will be jointly owned by vendors. Some will be owned by groups of vendors. Some will be owned by combinations of various marketplace participants, even the media themselves. The fact is that we do not want legacy business models to limit the new ideas and new initiatives that are potentially going to emerge going forward. And finally, we need to be flexible and adaptive because The world is a big place. Needs change from country to country. So it's important to have some degree of standardization and unification of principles across the globe. But at the end of the day, we also need to be sensitive to the needs of local markets. Let me shift to product principles, the set of attributes that we would like to ideally see in the marketplace in the future. Here's the list. First, services need to have massive scale. Scale in terms of sample size, geography, types of media covered, types of data covered, and so on. Second, the data needs to be easily integrated from various sources, various companies, easily accessed, easily analyzed. Third, customers need to have a significant degree of influence over the design, creation, execution, and support of cross-media research services. The next one is transparency, obviously a very important attribute. There should not be black boxes. Customers need open access and full disclosure. Fifth, media must be measured in a neutral fashion. Special care must be taken as we connect the various media measurement systems to ensure that no medium is disadvantaged as we integrate across the different media. That's very, very hard to do. Sixth, Google operates globally, as do a lot of companies in this room. We want access to services and solutions that scale globally. Seventh, very importantly, we see a lot of value in the future with cross-media data resident and processed in the cloud and accessed via open APIs. Think of analytics for cross-media data like Android apps. The more open and accessible the data is for developers, the smarter and better the applications that will be developed. If it works for cell phones, why will it not work for cross-media research? And finally, services need to be respectful of consumers, their time, their privacy, and the confidentiality of the data that they provide. Let me move to partnership. The next way Google is trying to help is in terms of industry partnerships. We've been supporters of all organizations that work to advance the interests of advertisers, publishers, agencies, the media, and so forth. We also work directly with key stakeholders in the industry, and we'll talk about specific examples of that in a minute. The fact is, we're prepared to talk to industry organizations and individual companies about new joint research projects. But to us, it's not just a question of finding good research ideas. The challenge is to prioritize those research investments so that the most important and impactful research gets funded first. Google has been participating in a number of industry initiatives, and we're prepared to work hard on any new ideas that make sense. And finally, we've been willing to share information about our work with others. We often publish the results of our R&D work to advance the state of the art, and we'd like to see other organizations do the same. Investments. Google is making significant investments in cross-media research. It's a very strong focus of the company. We use dozens and dozens of vendors across the globe. The amount of money that we are investing in cross-media research is increasing, and we're open to new ideas, initiatives, and partnerships to advance the cross-media research agenda. As an organization, we're focused on high-quality research that results in open access and the sharing of learnings. And finally, we have the cloud-based resources, like a lot of companies do, that enable the creation, processing, and analysis of massive amounts of data, experimentation. This is the final guiding principle. We'd like to talk to you about experimentation. We believe that it's better to get something launched quickly and then to work to improve it than it is to wait for perfection. We have a saying at Google, launch early, launch often. The same concept, we believe, perfectly applies to cross-media research. We believe strongly that we need to move quickly, that we need to get new ideas, new services, and new initiatives out into the marketplace as quickly as possible. You heard the panel this morning. Our customers, agencies, the media are asking for it. And it won't be right the first time. It's not going to be the final solution the first time. It'll be a step along the way to something better but we need to act, and we need to act now. We'd like to suggest a three-phase approach for you to consider: innovate, initiate, and iterate. This speaks to the need for experimentation, it speaks to the need for speed, as well as constant improvement. So let me now flip to three specific examples of what Google is doing in the cross-media research area. We have a number of things that are going on. We'll talk about three things this afternoon. The first is an initiative called AFI, Project AFI, or Advertising Format Indices, or Project Impact. Jim Dravilis, in his panel discussion yesterday, talked a little bit about this initiative. It's a project that we are very excited about at Google. It's consistent with all of the principles that we just talked about. It's innovative, it's inclusive, it's leading edge, it's open, transparent, it's iterative, and it is based on a partnership business model. The core objective of AFI, or Project Impact, is to create ad format effectiveness weights for media planners and buyers, and hence the acronym AFI. This is an industry-led media research initiative. We're working with the ARF, Stanford University, Wharton, many of the largest agency holding companies, as well as major advertisers like P&G, Unilever, Verizon, Kraft, Pepsi, and US Cellular, just to name some. Nielsen and GfK are our research partners in the study. We are currently running pilots of this research in 3 countries, the US, the UK, and Germany. And we expect to get results later this year, and we will share what we learn with the industry. The next thing I want to talk about is single source measurement. Google is supporting the creation of single source panels on a global basis. We believe single source panels are an important ingredient in the future of cross-media research. So we are very engaged in experimentation, innovating, and initiating projects in this area. There are 2 types of single source panels I'm going to talk about today, among the many. The first are what we call media efficiency panels, and the second type of single source panels that we'll talk about are internet mobile panels. So let's start with the media efficiency panels. Google is currently supporting 2 MEP, or media efficiency panels, in 2 different countries in Europe. The focus of these panels is to link online and offline media use with purchase data so that we can provide relative measures of advertising effectiveness for combinations of media. These panels incorporate the ability to vary ad exposure for online media to create test control ad effectiveness research. The panels are owned and operated by GfK with Google financial support. So where are they? Germany and the Netherlands, to start. The panel in Germany has been operating for some time. The panel size is 5,000 households and includes electronic measurement for television and a web for and a meter for the web. In the Netherlands, we are also currently operating the panel with 6,000 households, and it too will incorporate cross-media measurement linked to purchase data. So those are 2 examples of media efficiency panels. I'll flip to the internet mobile panels. This is very new. Google has recently engaged Ipsos to create single-source internet mobile panels in 5 countries. The countries are the US, the UK, France, Germany, and Japan. The focus of these panels is to measure online behavior across devices. We will be installing PC-based and mobile meters for the data collection part of it, and sample sizes will range from 1,000 to 3,000 depending on the country. We plan to launch this later this year, and again, consistent with what we were saying, this is the first step down a path. This is not the destination, this is the beginning of our process to connect mobile and internet. So, these are 3 specific examples of what we're doing. We clearly have been doing a lot, but I would emphasize there's even more to do in the future. And frankly, there's a lot that the industry needs to do and can do if we are to successfully meet the challenges of cross-media research that Elissa talked about. So we have an ask. To end our presentation today, we'd like to talk about next steps and to be very clear about what we are asking you for. Here's the agenda. We have talked about Google's view of the future state of cross-media research. Some of you may agree with it, some of you may disagree with it. That's great. I think the industry needs to engage in a conversation, and we need to sync our respective viewpoints on what the future should look like. How should success be defined in terms of cross-media research? What should it look like? What are the key marketplace and product principles that you want to establish? You have an opportunity to shape the outcome of this. Second, as an industry, we need to ramp up our collective investments in cross-media research. The challenges and complexity that Elissa talked about are coming at us extremely fast. We do not have the luxury of time. We need to act decisively. Third, we need to supplement our legacy business models with new investment thinking. Google, as I'm sure other companies in the industry, would love to hear your ideas about game-changing cross-media research initiatives. But frankly, we'd be even more excited if you came to us with those ideas, but also talked about innovative ways to co-fund those projects to help them get done. And fourth, we need to figure out how to get from where we are today to the future state of cross-media research we all want. This is really the call-out that the panel this morning, the non-research panel, ended up concluding. We're not suggesting that we form a new industry organization, far from it. There are great organizations that we can leverage, like the ARF, SIM, the IAB, the ANA, the 4As, and others, or through a combination. We need to work together. It's the only way that we are going to collectively solve the challenges that Elissa talked about. And it's not just ideas, it's the strategy, it's the prioritization of how we optimize our research investments in the future. We need to act to do that. Google wants to partner with the industry, and we hope the feeling is mutual. We believe it's the surest way to successfully meet the challenges of cross-media research. I'd like to thank the ARF for the opportunity to be a part of this conference. It's great to see so many people in the room who share our interest in cross-media research.